everyone! I hope you've all been doing okay with the whole coronavirus thing and the being quarantined. I'm sure by this point you've got cabin fever. I know that I have cabin fever. It's very prevalent. It's driving me insane. So, for those of you who might not know me, my name is Melina DeGoyer. I am one of the worship coordinators at MTSU's Wesley Foundation. And not only do I enjoy being a worship coordinator, not only do I enjoy hanging out with people, even though I can't during this quarantine, I also have a strong passion for SFX makeup. And that is what I'm going to be teaching you guys today. Today we're going to do 3 basic looks. The first one is going to be a basic character build that involves facial correction, which basically means I'm going to reconstruct my face like a plastic surgeon, but with makeup. The second look is going to be an injury-related look. It's going to look like we just got into a very bad bar fight, and we're going to make it look as realistic as possible. Some of you might already know my wrath. I've already tricked a few people in thinking that it was real the last time I did it. So I think that we got a pretty good shot at making it look pretty realistic. The third thing we are going to do is just kind of for my own enjoyment, because I've done it before. We are going to gender bend into the opposite sex. And what that means is I'm going to make myself look like a boy. Why? Because I have cabin fever, I'm stuck in the house, I have all this makeup in front of me, and I got nothing better to do. So that is what today's goal is going to be. Those 3 looks, I'm going to teach you how to do it. So I have all of my makeup in front of me. I got my mirror right over here. So let's get started. A majority of the products I'm going to use, aside of the first few you see here, are going to be Ben Nye products that I bought for my class at MTSU. Just use things you've got in your makeup kit that has similar colors and you're going to do just fine. I have to restart the recording every time we get there. Now, one of the first things you're going to want to do before you start doing your makeup is going to be starting with a clean slate. You're going to want to wash your face, get rid of the oils, wipe her down, make sure she's nice and clean. The next thing you're going to want to do is what I'm doing right now, which is getting your hair out of the way of your canvas, because it's going to not really... Your hair shouldn't be part of the look yet, that's all I'm saying. So just push that bad boy back and we're going to get started on our first look, which is the character look. Now the thing about the character look is that it's going to act like a basic makeup that you would do normally every day, except you're going to give your character some kind of a background. So today my character is going to be just a young person, relatively my age. She is going to be someone who works outside, so she's going to have some sunburn, some sun damage on her face, which for most people you recognize sun damage as either, again, sunburns or freckles. But before we can get to that point, we have to get started with our foundation. Now when it comes from my skin personally, it pulls a lot of red tones, so I have to use 2 different foundations on top of each other in order to get that nice sleek character look. It's not going to exactly match my skin tone just because this is stage makeup, so it needs to be just slightly darker so that it shows up nicely on stage, but you can use your regular makeup and it'll work just fine for you. Now for me, I have to use these 2, which are P42, Ultra Beige, which is Ben Nye's, and then I also have to use Ben Nye PAS1, Natural Beige. Those 2 on top of each other are what's going to work for my skin. So what I forgot to mention was I actually, because of this being a corrective look, you have to cover a lot of your blemishes, a lot of your dark spots, a lot of your redness. So what I used was Hard Candy Color Correction. I used their Radiant Primers, their pink, and I used their green. Their green, well, really green in general, is actually used to cover up redness and counteract the redness. And the pink is actually used to lighten your dull spots. So if you notice, I used the green all over my face in order to cover a lot of the blemishes, and I used the pink, which you'll see me use in just a minute, in order to cover my dark circles, in order to cover my personal, just a genetic thing, my jowl lines that I have that can get dark at times. And also, I tend to have bigger pores in the crevices of my nose, so you'll see me use it there as well. And the pink is used to lighten things, to make your face a more even shape. And obviously, like I said before, the red is used, not the red, the green is used to cover up your blemishes, which are red. in order to, again, give you a more even tone to use your base makeup on. Now, what you see me pulling out are just some regular sponges, makeup sponges, and I'm going to use my first lighter color of the beige in order to cover my face in a base of foundation. By the end of this adventure of foundation, I'm going to look like a ghost. So enjoy a little fast forward of me putting on 2 layers of foundation because my skin doesn't know how to cooperate with me at all. At this point, I realized that my light was way too light. I've been using my window, and I couldn't find a balance, so I had to get up and try and figure that out. Oh well, it happens. Now up next is going to be my next color, which is the PAS1 Natural Beige. Also, just make sure, because you use the sponge, it does have 2 sides. Don't be wasteful, just use the other side of the sponge. It's not like you're going to mess anything up. They're going to be mixing anyways. Now that we've gotten our base done, it's time to move on to my favorite part, which is going to be the contour portion. Now the contour portion, you can use a regular contour kit, but again, I use the things that are going to be in my Ben Nye kit. So what I'm going to be using here is the Cream Shadow CS3. It's a character shadow. It kind of has a more purpley hue, which works really well for when you're doing on-stage makeup because it makes everything look a lot more crisp, a lot darker. It's not just a regular brown that looks really soft. It's going to be a nice contrast when it comes to shaping the face. So let's do it. So I'm going to speed this one up just a little bit quicker than the last one. So what's happening here is I'm going to be using my brush to outline where I want the shadow to go, and then I'm going to fill in with just a little bit of product so I have a placemat of where things are going to go. After that, I'm going to dip my sponge into the product, and then I'm going to sponge it out, smooth it out, and make it look the way I want this character to look, which involves a little bit of editing just because I wanted to try something a little bit different, you know, with the nose and making the jaw a little bit sharper, making the cheeks a little bit sharper. But really, it's just kind of up to you. What do you want this character to look like? What do you want their facial structure to look like? It's just all fun and games, so just make it up as you go. Doesn't have to be the same as me. So I went ahead and moved on, so I started using my highlight, which was the CH0 Ultralight Ben Nye. I outlined it with my paintbrush similar to the shadow, and then I took a sponge with a little bit of product, and I blended that bad boy straight in. Just because I wanted to get that step done, it makes the shadow pop a lot more. Next, I decided to go in, and I used my cream contour. I used Cinnamon and Dusty Rose with a stipple sponge. I dipped it into both, and I started working on the freckles. I use these 2 colors as they contrast really well, and also the Dusty Rose works as a tiny blush. Then I brought in my bruise wheel. I used a tiny bit of the red to add a little bit of color, and then I went back in with my CH Ultralight highlight to give the freckles a little bit of dimension with some light ones. Finally, I added my eyebrows, which was Taupe EP3, to really make them pop and show up. Then I went back to that contour wheel with the Dusty Rose and put on my lip color, just because my lips were kind of gone at this point. Was being a bit of a monster for me, but here's our finished look. I'll go ahead and try to bring my face in so you can actually see what's going on. So, like I said, we added some fun freckles, we contoured my face to give it a completely new shape, and now we have created our character, which was someone who is relatively my age who works out in the sun. Okay, we are back, we are clean, we are ready to go. So next we're going to be doing the injury makeup, and what that's going to involve is Ben Nye Liquid Latex. I'm also going to be using Scar Wax to give you a little bit of an example of how to use that. I'm going to be using Ben Nye's Dark Blood in order to give it that darker, evil, bleh gory look because you kind of need that. I'm also going to be using Spirit Gum Remover. Now, the thing about Spirit Gum Remover, the reason I'm using it is because if you have ever used Scar Wax at any point, even if you haven't, I'll just let you know it is very, very sticky. It is really a pain in the butt to use without some kind of a lubricant. So some people will use Vaseline, some people will just use baby oil. I use Spirit Gum Remover because it's basically like an oil. It works the same way. I mean, it basically is an oil. And so what it will do is it'll lubricate the Scar Wax in order for me to make it malleable to my face. Now, when it comes to using liquid latex, when it comes to using nose and scar wax, you need a clean face anyways because it's not going to stick to the surface unless it is clean. So instead of doing a regular base of makeup before, I'm going to end up just using these straight on my face because my skin is sensitive, but it can handle this for some reason. If you're skin sensitive, you might want to put something down just to make sure that your skin doesn't get irritated. And then once we get those on to where we need them to be, we're going to start adding the makeup, which we are mainly going to be messing with our favorite bruise wheel, which consists of all of our colors we're going to need to create bruises. We're also going to be doing a little bit of a bruise tutorial as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding on the liquid latex. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spread it on in thin layers. Make sure it's thin layers. You wanna make sure the outsides are thin. Then I'm gonna use a hairdryer in order to speed up the process to make sure that it dries. You can know it's dry by giving it a quick little touch and making sure it's not super tacky. Really, it shouldn't really be tacky at all. And then add on another thin layer. So I would recommend doing about 2 to 4 layers. In this specific one, I ended up doing about 4 layers of latex. So let's take those scissors and those tweezers and let's go ahead and start pulling up that skin, cutting it up, making it look like we really gashed ourselves in the face thanks to this liquid latex. Next, we're going to be going in with our bruise wheel and we are going to add that light red inside under all of the flaps of the latex, really make it look like it's pretty deep in there. Then we're going to take that purpley color, pack it in to make the gash look just a bit deeper than what it looked like with just the red. Finally, we're going to add that black sparsely to make sure that it is deep. Now we're going to pick the bottom of a sponge to make it look like capillaries, add on that light red, and nice and unevenly pack it around to make it look pretty irritated. Finally, the fun part we've all been waiting for, we're going to add that fake blood in. We're going to really pull it into those liquid latex. Make sure it goes under the flaps of the latex to make it look like it's been pooling up to the surface. And now we have our first cut. So moving on, we're going to start using the scar wax and we are going to apply it with our spatula by scooping it out, rolling it into nice little cylinders and applying it to our eyebrow. Now what I'm using on my finger is the Spirit Gum Remover, the oil, because the nose wax and scar wax is really sticky. As you can see, it does become a little bit of a problem when I start trying to put it on my mouth. And so I really had to pack on that Spirit Gum Remover in order to smooth it out to make it look like a skin texture. You really want to smooth it out. Now take a spatula, or if you have any kind of a straight edge, and try to put one straight line into your scar wax so that it looks like you have a scar. Then take your same sponge you use for your bruises and add a little bit of light red for irritation. Now take a brush, make it really thin, use that light red to go inside of the cuts, and then use that dark purple to go inside of the cuts to make it look a lot deeper. Now we finally get to use our bruise wheel to make our actual bruise around our eye. Like I showed you, we're going to use our light red, we're going to pack it around with that sponge. Don't worry about mixing your colors, it's all going to end up on your face mixed up and it's going to show up fine. Have our injury look. What we worked on, we did some liquid latex, we did some bruising, and we also worked with some scar wax in order to make it look like we have injured ourselves. Now I'll go ahead and get a little close here. Beware, it's a bit gruesome. This is on the very, very dramatic, like, I was blackout, gone bar fight, and I lost. This was a tough one. This was a rough one. But it looks pretty cool, and it looks relatively realistic, and it was definitely fun to do. So up next is our final look, which is going to be the fun one for me. We're going to gender bend, but first I have to wipe my face off. So if you don't mind, I gotta go. Okay, we are back. we are clean. Now, this section's gonna be a little bit shorter simply because we have done some of this already before. So what we're gonna do is we are going to first put on our foundation. So let's get right to that. A bit of craziness happened, no biggie. My editing software decided I wanted to shut down in the middle of my last recording while I was doing the contour, so I'll just explain what happened. So what I did was I tried to keep the lines a bit more sharp this time, but I still used the same contour step that I used before. I used a sponge, a brush, and that shadow cream. And what I did was I created the lines a bit more, like I said, sharp than what I did in the original first look, because when creating a guy's facial structure, they can be a bit more chiseled than the female feminine facial structure. And especially in my case where my face is really round, it's important for me to make sure those lines are sharp to really show a difference in contrast with my face shape and the face shape I am trying to go for. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to start working on wrinkles, because I never said that this man was going to be young. He's actually going to be more towards, I would say maybe like 40s and 50s. So we're going to give him wrinkles. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the next section right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two thinnest brushes and I'm going to squish them with my fingers to make them very flat. And then I'm going to grab my cream shadow and I'm going to start drawing the wrinkles. Where I'm starting here is called the nasolabial fold. It is the first wrinkle that you develop when you are getting older. Now when you are creating wrinkles, always make sure that you do it in one fell swoop. As you can see, I will occasionally go back and fix the things that I've done, but other than that I do it in one straight line, because if you start doing it with sketching motions, you could add extra lines that you don't want. Now when blending shadow, make sure that you blend upwards. Shadows always blend upwards, and the reason for that is because you want the shadow to lead to where that crevice ends. Now when we start doing highlight in the next section, we are going to highlight downward in order to contrast that upward shadow to show the difference in the planes where it is actually lower versus where it is higher. Finally, we've reached the highlight. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in the bottom of all of those lines that we had created for the shadow, and we are going to blend all of the highlight downward in order to create that difference between the upper portions of the wrinkles and the lower portions of the wrinkles. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, time for facial hair. We're gonna take that EP9 black, put it on our eyebrows. Make sure you go in two directions so the eyebrows look thick and more boyish because they don't tweeze. Next, we're gonna take that cinnamon and that black on the contour palette, take a stipple sponge, and we're gonna swipe in the direction that hairs go. Don't forget the soul patch, that's kind of important. Now, at this point, this is the moment where I decided I kind of want a mustache. It's my face, we're gonna do it. So we decided to put a mustache on the face, and now we have full-blown scruff. We made it. It took us a weird road to get here, but we made it. We have created injuries, we have created regular people, and we've created hobos. I didn't think that my quarantine madness would get me to this point, but look where I am now. So, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, because I definitely learned something today. I need social interaction. So, I'm glad that we had to have this moment for me to realize that I'm a little far gone. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.